Then, of course, we have the policy problems, which has been creating a whole lot of issues for investors, macroeconomic issues, particularly around foreign exchange. But foreign exchange is very critical to the attraction of capital into an economy. So if you have a dysfunctional foreign exchange policy or foreign exchange market, how do you attract capital into the system? Thank you very much. It's indeed a great pleasure and privilege to be part of this august gathering and to share my perspectives on the theme of our discussion this evening. Well, I have a couple of slides which I would like to share, and I speak to those slides very, very quickly. I'm aware that I have just 15 minutes. I will do that very quickly now. So just permit me to share my slides. Well, as you have been told, I am speaking on the theme, COVID-19, business and economic recovery in Africa. Of course, because Nigeria is the largest economy on the continent, and because we're also addressing a largely Nigerian audience, most of the examples and experiences that I will be sharing will be Nigerian experiences. And of course, what happens in Nigeria is something that we can easily replicate in other countries of Africa, because the features and the characteristics of the economies are practically the same. I will be looking at the nature of the shocks that the pandemic has inflicted on the economy, particularly the investors. I'll be looking at the opportunities that the pandemic also offers, because in every crisis, there is always a silver lining. Then I'll be looking at business resilient strategies, which at least strategies that businesses can adopt in order to continue to sustain their business. So basically, I think those are the things, and of course, I will look at other elements of business and corporate strategy. Some of the shocks inflicted on businesses by the pandemic. Of course, you knew that as a result of the pandemic, there was a trigger in terms of the economic recession, which affected quite a number of countries globally. Nigeria and many African economies were not exception to this. And this recession also triggered quite a number of macroeconomic instability in many countries, with many of the macroeconomic variables, taking a nosedive. For the oil-producing countries, we had the oil price volatility, which was also a major trigger of the recession and the macroeconomic instability. We had the exchange rate depreciation. We had the foreign exchange liquidity challenges as a result of the weaknesses that we suffered in the external sector of the economies. We have the exchange rate volatility, which we are still experiencing even as we speak today. We have inflation and price volatility. For Nigeria, we can even describe what we're experiencing now as galloping inflation, which is taking a toll on both businesses and the citizens. We had supply chain disruptions. We had regulatory shocks. Some of the regulatory shocks also arose from some of the policy responses to the pandemic. Then we had policy shocks, foreign exchange policy, monetary policy, trade policy, and tax policy. And of course, disruptions that were also inflicted by technology and innovation. Some of the key elements of the shocks to business as a result of the pandemic, we saw as a result of the recession, we saw the contraction of the economy, which led to a large extent to a collapse in aggregate demand, which affected sales, affected turnover, and affected business performance across practically all sectors. Businesses with high import exposure were put under serious pressure and are still under serious pressure as we speak because of the currency depreciation. Costs have gone up dramatically and demand remains weak. So all the businesses that has very high import exposure or forex exposure are under immense pressure as we speak now. Of course, this has affected profit margins. Many businesses also lost foreign credit lines following defaults in foreign payment obligations resulting from the forex liquidity challenges. And businesses with offshore credit facilities also face very severe challenges and are still facing those challenges because of the challenge of servicing these facilities, especially where the investment is not forex generating, that is not foreign exchange generating. And of course, even at the individual levels, those of us that have children abroad schooling and all of that, we know the kind of pressure that we face, having to pay all those school fees in hard currency. Contracts on projects that have high foreign exchange components are facing challenges as costs have gone up dramatically. This is a bigger issue where there are no provisions for variations in the contract. The level of receivables have also increased as many firms have frozen payments to contractors, and the level of default in payment also increased across practically all sectors. Supply chains were disrupted globally and domestically because of all the restrictions, although those are beginning to ease as we speak now, but not fully yet. Some sectors suffered severely as a result of the lockdown. The entertainment industry, the aviation industry, the hospitality industry. Many of them have huge fixed costs, and investments in all these fixed costs were lying fallow over the period of the pandemic, and even to some extent, even as we speak. The impact on SMEs was also severe. Most of them in the rental business, catering business, musical entertainment, decoration business, fashion designing, event planners, poultry products, so many of them were adversely affected as a result of the collapse in many parts of the economy and the fact that we saw a major contraction in the economies of African countries. There were a lot of breaches on contractual obligations. I mean, a lot of people claimed or made a case for a force majeure. Business mortality also increased. Other contemporary disruptive variables, particularly in the Nigerian environment and even economies that have similar characteristics. There were foreign exchange restrictions on a number of sectors. We had foreign exchange illiquidity. A lot of people that wanted to undertake international trade transactions could not do so because they didn't have access to foreign exchange. We had exchange rate depreciation, issues of border closure, port crisis, energy tariff hike. All of these were also very disruptive to the economy. Then, of course, for Nigeria, we have growing insecurity, challenges of terrorism, policy inconsistency, regulatory changes, multiplicity of taxes, a lot of levies. All of this also put a lot of pressure on quite a number of businesses. Sudden changes in taxes and levies, ban on imports in order to conserve foreign exchange, because the strategy of the central bank is to concentrate a lot more on demand management. And that affected quite a number of businesses in the economy. Then, of course, in some countries, we had restriction on exports, issues of gridlock around the ports, challenges of corruption. Some of this may not be directly related to the pandemic, but they are also very important disruptive variables in the Nigerian economy, especially. In all of this, I think there is a need to also focus on resilience, because as investors, we cannot put investment on hold. We cannot put businesses on hold because there are challenges. So what is important is to come up with business models that will make our businesses a lot more resilient. So in a situation as we have, as a test of the enterprising and entrepreneurial capacity of each of the promoters of business. So resilience in business is about minimizing the impact of these disruptions or shocks on the business. It's also about business continuity to avoid bad outcomes. It's about avoiding getting into panic mode because if you're in a crisis, I think the more calm you are, the better in terms of how you respond to the crisis. We need to break silos. We need to also project and demonstrate confidence even in a crisis. All of these elements are very critical to building business resilience. Of course, very robust communication, this is very imperative, especially within our organizations. This is imperative to avoid rumors because silence actually nurtures the rumor mills. Collaboration, teamwork, inclusion, all of these are very critical. Of course, we need to preserve cash. In a crisis, cash is king. So a healthy cash flow is the lifeblood of a business. So even in a crisis, we need to concentrate on managing cash and managing the cash flow so that we don't find ourselves in a situation where the entire system collapses because of cash flow issues. Then it is important that we adopt flexible management approach to keep tight control on costs. It's important we review non-revenue generating areas of business. I mean, if you look at our business models properly, we should be able to identify areas that are not really revenue generating and see how we can cut them off, if only temporarily. It's important that we review the supply chain strategy. If possible, we look at the option of import substitution, especially in the light of what is happening to the currency of many African economies. Innovation and creativity are very important in circumstances such as this, and leveraging technology is even more important. Because if there is any lesson from the COVID, if there is any benefit of COVID, I think it's about the awareness that it has created about leveraging technology in our business processes and operations. It is important to look at the option of sourcing raw materials locally where possible. This has been the consistent message of our monetary authorities. I'm talking now about the central bank. Issues of backward integration. We need to increase investment in technology to optimize current processes. We need to review our business model in line with consumer preferences. Since COVID, I mean, we have seen a lot of changes in consumer preferences. Spending priorities have begun to change. And as an entrepreneur, it is important that you understand these dynamics and respond with an appropriate business model. To explore options of large-scale remote working. As we speak, even though we are seeing a slight reduction in the incidence of the COVID, but quite a number of organizations are still working remotely because they find value in remote working. And it has been working for quite a number of organizations, even irrespective of the COVID worries. Then it is important that we have good risk management metrics, understanding of how to manage the risk. We need to identify all these variables that you have mentioned and identify to what extent they impact on our businesses, because these variables impact on businesses differently. Depends, of course, on what sectors we are. So we need to know what variables, what challenges affect the particular line of business that we do and respond appropriately depending on how critically, first, the probability of those risks crystallizing. Secondly, the impact, the degree of impact of those crystallization on our business. Those two variables are very important in determining how we manage the risk and how we respond to some of the dynamics, the variables that has resulted from the onset of COVID. Well, it is also good in a situation like this to be an opportunity hunter. In every crisis, there is also an opportunity. So we should not just be lamenting, about the challenges that the COVID-19 has posed or the disruption that it has created. It's important. And a lot of smart business people have done that. We have seen how one or two bottling companies in Nigeria responded very swiftly to the issue of COVID by going to mass production of sanitizers. And before we knew what was happening, that became a major product line for that business, for that company. So decision-making should also be evidence-based. It has to be data-driven so that enhances the quality of business strategy or the quality of business decisions. It's important that we're also aware of the macro picture. We operate a business within a macro context. So it is very important that through this kind of awareness, we understand the macroeconomic environment and situate our businesses appropriately so that we minimize the shocks of the prevailing conditions. We need to sustain our core values as a business, irrespective of what is happening. It is important that our customers know what we stand for, and we need to be consistent with that. We should also seize learning opportunities offered by the crisis. Every crisis has a learning opportunity. So we should also identify what learning opportunity this crisis has fostered on us and seize that opportunity to improve our understanding of our businesses. Of course, it is important that we look at, we have a hindsight, we have a good insight, and we have foresight, and we have also very good oversight. Hindsight is about learning the right lessons from experience. The insight is about interpreting and responding to current conditions properly. The foresight is about anticipating, predicting, and preparing for the future. The oversight is about monitoring and reviewing what has happened and see how we can better position our businesses in form of whatever business strategy or corporate strategy that we intend to adopt. Of course, the pandemic has also brought quite a number of opportunities. And we have seen the impact it has had on digital solutions that the ICT sector. It has boosted investment in the sector, Zoom, data, ICT infrastructure, e-commerce, and all of that. In the Nigerian economy, one of the fastest growing sectors, even in the pandemic, was the ICT sector. And this was largely as a result of how the new opportunities that the pandemic has created for the sector. Huge opportunities for import substitution because of the high cost of imports. This has created opportunities for local substitutes, which is good for the economy because of the multiplier effects that this have on the economy. Well, many of the African countries are experiencing weak currency as a result of what has happened to their macroeconomic environment. But it's important to also underline that weak currency is good for export business. It's a great incentive for exports, especially where import content is low. So I think this is a time for African economies to do a lot more in the export area because of the weakness of their currencies. Of course, in many of the African countries, we had monetary and fiscal policy stimulus to the pandemic. In Nigeria, for instance, we had the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan with a total value of about 2.3 trillion naira, to see how to cushion the effects of the pandemic. Of course, there are debates as to how effectively this has been managed, but I think at least some businesses actually benefited and the impact has been positive. Other opportunities is that this is a good time for backward integrating industries because it enhances competitiveness. We have seen cases of distress sales. This has also increased, and this has crashed some asset prices, including stocks. Investment in health and hygiene products witnessed some significant growth as a result of the pandemic. We have seen a sharp drop in travel budgets across sectors as meetings and conferences are now, many meetings and conferences are now held online, and which is good for the budget of many companies and even for government budget, because we know that the government has a huge budget on travels. Then, of course, all of this also requires very sound competitiveness strategy. Two options according to Porter. We have the low cost, low price strategy. That is offering lowest possible price in the markets. But with this, production costs must be very low, and that is talking about economies of scale. That is important to crash costs. Leveraging on technology is very key in driving down costs. Bulk purchase of inputs and raw materials is also very important. And good bargains from suppliers is also very important. So all of these are some of the things we need to do if you want to adopt a low cost, low pricing strategy for the survival of business in the current situation. Then, of course, we have the alternative of a differentiation strategy. We are not reducing price, we are not adjusting price, but we have to leverage on quality of our product. Of course, the prices will be relatively higher, but this will require that we deepen our brand loyalty to have unique customer service, unique packaging, good after-sales service, good distribution channels, and excellent product value proposition. So these are some of the strategies that businesses have been adopting and could still continue to adopt in order to stay afloat.
I would want to ask Professor Tommy and Dr. Muda Yusuf what they think would be 1 to 2 trade lessons we learned, or maybe Africa would have learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, talking about the business sector. And then how would they rate African governments in terms of managing the COVID-19 pandemic, perhaps starting with Nigeria and the rest of Africa?
Thank you very much for that question. Before then, I think you also raised the issue about what the government can do.
Yes, especially in terms of...
Yes, I omitted that because I was focusing more on what we can regard as our business or corporate strategy. Okay. Because in this environment, as a business person, you have to factor all these inadequacies into the business model.
So going like this.
And we have to take them as given and see how we can function within these limitations. Because some of these challenges have been with us for a very long time. And if as a business person, you want these problems to go away before we do business, they will not do anything. So I think the safest thing to do, while we'll try to engage at the level of advocacy to see how things can change, is to recognize these various limitations, factor them as variables into our business model, and see how we can make the business work. I think from a business strategy point of view, that is what I would suggest. Now, as to what the government can do, these challenges, we have some key dimensions to them. We have the structural issues, which have been affecting issues of production, competitiveness, and the Professor Tommy talked a lot about global value chain. How do you connect to the global value chain if the environment for production has been so weakened so that whatever you produce, you become very, very uncompetitive? So we are struggling with basic infrastructure like power, like roads, like the ports, like transportation, so many challenges like that. So that is why the economy seems to be swinging more in the direction of service sector than in the real economy. Because the service sector now is clearly well over 50% of our GDP. Because the challenges in that space, of course, the challenges are there, but they are not as daunting as for those who are in the real sector of the economy. So the structural issue is a major issue. Then, of course, we have the policy problems, which has been creating a whole lot of issues for investors, macroeconomic issues, particularly around foreign exchange. Because foreign exchange is very critical to the attraction of capital into an economy. So if you have a dysfunctional foreign exchange policy or foreign exchange market, how do you attract capital?